Now, the funniest part about this, and I'm sure this is a coincidence, is how as soon as Asia Wilson starts turning her head, the guy, the kid, starts turning his head the other way.
Check this out. That's Aja Wilson courtside at a Miami Heat game, there to support Bam Adebayo. 2 seats down from her sits a kid rocking a Caitlin Clark Indiana Fever jersey, number 22. The second Aja glances over, the kid whips his head away. Talk about tension you could cut with a knife. This moment sums up the weirdest relationship drama happening in pro basketball right now.
In an article she did with ESPN, the WNBA has taken off the past few years, but it's weird to see it this year. It feels like a lot of black women in the league have been criticized. Has that been a downer? You know, the ESPN shills setting her up to cry about race and victim, but that's what they do at ESPN. We're not surprised. It really has, in my sense, because it feels like it's not like we're timid, but it's like you don't want us to do stuff. I threw in that because that's how you just don't want to hear the noise. It strips us from the genuine and pureness and love of the game. Just like, I don't even want to go down this road. I know it's going to be some idiotic person that's going to talk crazy, and then I have to continue to take the high road, aka be mature.
This goes way deeper than one awkward fan interaction. We're looking at Aja Wilson's ongoing issues with the entire Caitlin Clark explosion, and it's been building for months. Back in September 2024, Aja dropped some serious comments in an ESPN sit-down that got the whole league talking. She straight up told them she hated going to Indiana during the season. Not the city itself, but the potential drama with Caitlin Clark's fan base. Let that sink in for a moment. You've got the current WNBA MVP, 2-time champion, the absolute cornerstone of the Las Vegas Aces, publicly saying she's scared to visit another team's home court because of their supporters. That's not standard operating procedure for elite athletes.
It gets exhausting. That's something that I've really seen this year that I've never seen before. It's just like damned if you do, damned if you don't. And you constantly have to live in that life for 4 months and over.
Then Aja dropped the bomb that sent social media into complete chaos. She looked that ESPN reporter dead in the eye and said, "I just don't want no shit to pop off. We're talking about Indiana here. We're talking about Caitlin Clark's army of fans. She's painting herself as someone under siege, someone constantly taking the mature path, someone completely drained by this whole circus."
It doesn't matter what we all do as black women. We're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is.
Now, here's where things get messy. Aja's not completely off base about the WNBA boom creating some serious waves. The league absolutely shattered records in 2024, with games regularly pulling over 2 million eyeballs for the first time ever. Caitlin Clark's rookie campaign single-handedly boosted league attendance by 48%. The Indiana Fever transformed from averaging 4,000 empty seats to packing over 17,000 screaming fans per game. We've never seen numbers like this before. What's eating at Aja is simple. She wasn't the catalyst for any of it. When you've been carrying the league for years, when you've got back-to-back championships under your belt, when you've claimed MVP honors twice, and then some rookie walks in, getting 10 times your media coverage, that's gonna sting whether you admit it or not.
Say it's not about race, because it is. You know, in her mind, she's thinking to herself, man, you think he's why is this guy wearing a Caitlin Clark jersey and not my jersey? Why is he wearing a CeCe jersey and not an Asia Wilson jersey? I mean, of course it's about race. He's probably not even going to think it's about race, but of course it's about race. Subconsciously, he's thinking to himself, it's about race. I only want to wear Caitlin Clark's jersey because it's about race. Asia Wilson's blood is boiling inside. In fact, if you zoom in and you look closely, you can see steam coming out of her ears.
Pay attention to how Aja spins this whole thing in that ESPN conversation. She claims it feels like black women throughout the league are getting attacked, and all this Caitlin Clark hype takes away from the genuine and pureness and love of the game. She's injecting race into the equation. She's framing herself as silenced and overlooked. She's basically saying Caitlin Clark's meteoric rise is a personal attack on her and players who look like her. But here's where that logic completely falls apart. Nobody's coming after Aja Wilson for dominating on the court. Nobody's saying she doesn't deserve her flowers. What fans are pushing back against is exactly this victim complex. This narrative that Caitlin Clark's popularity somehow diminishes everyone else in the league.
Just imagining the awkward eye contact is cracking me up. I'm literally reposting every video of this I see. It warms my heart. Notice she sets something down next to her. I mean, she couldn't possibly sit next to someone wearing number 22. To that gentleman, hats off to you. Yes, A'ja Wilson at the Heat game supporting Bam Adebayo. And the funniest part is,
said A'ja keeps going in that interview, saying it's just like damned if you do, damned if you don't, and you constantly have to live in that life for 4 months. 4 months. That's one WNBA season. She's claiming that for the entire season she felt like she was tiptoeing through a minefield, unable to speak her mind, forced to be the bigger person, because otherwise some random person online might tweet something mean about her. This is a professional athlete pulling down over $200,000 from her WNBA contract alone, plus millions more from sponsorship deals, whining that she has to deal with internet trolls. Welcome to professional sports in 2024. That's literally the trade-off. You get the spotlight, the cash, the influence, and yes, you also get keyboard warriors talking trash on Twitter.
Anywhere. And I like that. I like that. We see you when you're sleeping. We know when you're awake. From anywhere. Just haunting the anti-Caitlin Clark guys. Just haunting them everywhere that they go.
So let's circle back to that Heat game situation, because what's really going down is A'ja Wilson has built this entire storyline where Caitlin Clark fans are basically a threat, where Indiana might as well be enemy territory, where she needs to stay alert at all times. Then she plops down at this basketball game, spots a kid in a Caitlin Clark jersey, and you can literally see her whole body tense up. The kid's doing absolutely nothing wrong. He's not chirping at her. He's not even acknowledging she exists. He's just a young basketball fan repping his favorite player's gear. But inside A'ja's head, this has transformed into some kind of standoff. This has become proof of everything she's been complaining about.
Off season. Bam doesn't teach A'ja tricks. A'ja teaches Bam trick. Bam, you gotta hit the jam step like this. Bam, you gotta hit the step back like that. Hey, Bam, when you hook in the post, you gotta reach and hook in the post.
Social media absolutely lost its mind over this clip. The original Heat game post racked up hundreds of thousands of views, and basically every single comment zeroed in on that Caitlin Clark jersey. Can't escape CC22 anywhere? Even where you don't want it to, we show up. The Caitlin Clark jersey spotted from anywhere. Clark's fanbase turned it into entertainment, like they'd successfully crashed A'ja's evening out. But dig deeper, and you'll find the real problem. A'ja Wilson is supposed to represent the WNBA's established elite. She's the proven champion, the seasoned veteran, the player everyone should aspire to be like. Yet when she steps foot in any basketball arena, the jersey that catches everyone's attention isn't hers. It belongs to Caitlin Clark. And this is happening at a Miami Heat game in Florida. Nowhere close to Indiana.
Face. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. Imagine being the face of the WNBA. You walk into an arena. You're the face of the league. Whether it's an NBA game or a WNBA game, it's basketball. Your jersey should be in the crowd.
Someone in the comments absolutely nailed the core issue here. Imagine being the face of the WNBA. You walk into an arena, you're the face of the league. Whether it's an NBA game or a WNBA game, it's basketball. Your jersey should be in the crowd. Your jersey should be somewhere in the arena. And the first jersey she sees, not only sees, but sitting right next to her is a CC22 jersey. That's A'ja's brutal reality check. She's achieved more than Caitlin Clark. She's won more than Caitlin Clark. She's been grinding in this league way longer than Caitlin Clark. But Caitlin Clark has her beat in popularity by miles, and no amount of ESPN interviews about feeling victimized is going to flip that script.
I'm going to need everybody to bow our heads, close our eyes, and say a prayer for one A'ja Wilson. She just survived an encounter, a scary encounter, a deadly encounter with a Caitlin Clark fan. I'm not sure how She escaped unscathed. I'm not sure how she managed to keep it all together, but A'ja Wilson is a survivor, folks. That's right. This weekend, she came face to face with a Caitlin Clark fan, and she got out of there
The internet's response to this whole drama has been absolutely savage. I'm going to need everybody to bow our heads, close our eyes, and say a prayer for one A'ja Wilson. She just survived an encounter, a scary encounter, a deadly encounter with a Caitlin Clark fan. That's the level of mockery we're seeing here. People are clowning the entire concept that A'ja needs some kind of security detail from fans. They're roasting this victim mentality, and it's not just random social media users. There's a real shift happening among basketball fans who think A'ja Wilson and other WNBA players have completely bungled the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. Instead of embracing the eyeballs, the ratings, the packed houses, they've turned it into a complaint fest. They've made everything about race. They've acted like Caitlin Clark's breakthrough somehow steals from their own success. What makes this whole mess so maddening is simple. The WNBA has been desperately chasing mainstream recognition for 20-plus years. Players have been demanding bigger paychecks, better travel setups, expanded media coverage, more credibility. Then Caitlin Clark walks through the door and hand delivers all of it. She's pulling 3 million viewers to regular season games. She's selling out arenas in cities that couldn't care less about the WNBA before her arrival. She's getting ESPN to dedicate primetime coverage to women's basketball, and instead of surfing that massive wave, instead of capitalizing on this golden moment, players like A'ja Wilson are griping that the system's rigged, that the spotlight should be shared differently, that Caitlin Clark's supporters are somehow toxic. It's like watching someone sabotage their own success story. A'ja Wilson had every opportunity to handle this situation with class. She could have stepped up and said, "Listen, Caitlin Clark is a game changer for our entire league. When one of us wins, we all win. I'm pumped about where women's basketball is going." Instead, she sat down for an interview where she talked about dreading road trips to Indiana and stressing about fan confrontations. She turned herself into the victim of her own league's biggest growth spurt ever. And that Heat game moment represents everything wrong with her approach. She locks eyes with a Caitlin Clark jersey, and it genuinely bothers her. Not because the kid wearing it did anything inappropriate, not because anyone disrespected her, but because that piece of fabric symbolizes everything she's been whining about. It's a walking reminder that Caitlin Clark commands more fan loyalty than she does, despite all of A'ja's hardware and achievements.
Think about the mental gymnastics required for that reaction.
A'ja Wilson is sitting courtside at an NBA game. She's there supporting Bam Adebayo, who she works out with during the off-season. She should be Lears, enjoying the game, having a good time. Then she spots that number 22 jersey, and her whole energy shifts. You can see it happen in real time. That's not a healthy mindset toward your sport. That's not a productive relationship with your own league. The blood-boiling comment from that ESPN interview really exposes what's going on here. A'ja said, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race. Because it is." So she's sitting there looking at a kid in a Caitlin Clark jersey and processing it through this lens of racial persecution. She's thinking he's wearing that jersey instead of mine because of my skin color. But that's not how fandom works. Fans connect with Caitlin Clark because she's electric to watch, because she launches shots from the parking lot, because she put together one of the most legendary college careers ever, because she plays like she's got something to prove, because she dragged Iowa to consecutive national title games. Race has nothing to do with jersey sales. Entertainment value and performance drive those decisions. A'ja Wilson dropped 27 points per game during the 2024 season. She claimed her second straight MVP trophy. She carried the Aces to another playoff run. She's already cemented herself as one of the most dominant forces in WNBA history. And yet she's sitting at a basketball game feeling insecure because some fan chose to wear a different player's jersey. That's not a race issue. That's an ego problem. That comment about dreading Indiana is particularly destructive because it reinforces every negative stereotype about WNBA players. It makes them appear petty and ungrateful. It suggests they can't handle the pressure that comes with mainstream success, and it hands ammunition to people who already dismiss women's basketball as irrelevant. When LeBron James dominated the NBA, did Kevin Durant start giving interviews about how he was scared to play in Cleveland because LeBron's fans might cause problems? When Tom Brady owned the NFL, did Aaron Rodgers complain about feeling threatened in New England? Of course not, because elite athletes understand that popularity isn't distributed equally, and complaining about it makes you look weak and insecure. The social media reaction to that Heat game footage tells the entire story of how this is playing with the public. Caitlin Clark's fanbase isn't backing down from Aja's victim narrative. They're having fun with it. They're turning the whole thing into comedy material. We see you when you're sleeping, we know when you're awake, from anywhere, just haunting the anti-Caitlin Clark eyes. They've transformed this into entertainment, and Aja's on the losing end. What's really tragic is none of this tension needed to exist. A'ja Wilson and Caitlin Clark could have built an incredible partnership. A'ja could have embraced her role as the wise veteran welcoming the exciting newcomer. They could have done joint interviews, shared appearances, collaborated on endorsement deals. Instead, A'ja chose to give quotes about dreading road trips and worrying about hostile fans. Now every interaction between them gets dissected and analyzed through this negative framework. The Bam Adebayo connection adds another layer to this story. A'ja trains with Bam during the off-season. She's publicly talked about teaching him post moves and helping refine his footwork. There's genuine mutual respect there. And Bam happens to be one of the most beloved players in the entire NBA. Heat fans adore him. The whole league respects his game, but he doesn't sit around complaining about other players getting more attention than him. He doesn't give interviews about feeling persecuted or overlooked. He just shows up, plays basketball, and lets his performance do the talking. That's exactly the approach A'ja should have adopted. Let your game speak for itself. You're a two-time MVP. You're a champion. You're one of the most skilled players on the planet. You don't need to whine about Caitlin Clark's popularity. You don't need to paint yourself as a victim of circumstances. You don't need to dread visiting opposing arenas. Just play basketball, handle interviews with grace, and let your results tell your story. Instead, we've reached a point where A'ja Wilson sitting near a Caitlin Clark fan at a basketball game becomes a viral sensation. People are studying her body language, her facial expressions, her reaction to spotting that jersey. The conversation around her has shifted from dominant MVP to player who can't cope with Caitlin Clark's success. That's a massive self-inflicted wound. So what happens next? The WNBA season fires up again in a few months. Caitlin Clark will still be the league's biggest draw. Fans will still rock her jersey in every single arena. And A'ja Wilson needs to figure out how to handle that reality without turning herself into a martyr every time it happens. The smart play would be completely flipping the script. Sit down for an interview where you acknowledge Caitlin Clark's positive impact on the league. Praise her game. Talk about how incredible it is to see packed arenas and record-breaking ratings. Show some grace. Show some leadership. Prove you can handle being the second most popular player without turning it into a racial controversy. But based on that ESPN interview, based on her body language at the Heat game, based on everything we've witnessed from A'ja Wilson this past year, that transformation probably isn't coming. She's committed to this victim storyline. She's convinced that Caitlin Clark's success represents some kind of injustice against her, and as long as she maintains that stance, moments like the Heat game will keep happening. She'll keep spotting Caitlin Clark jerseys everywhere she goes, and it'll keep eating at her. Because here's the bottom line. Caitlin Clark isn't disappearing. Her fan base isn't shrinking. The media attention isn't magically shifting back to A'ja Wilson just because she complains about fairness in interviews. The only thing changing is public perception of A'ja herself. And right now that perception is evolving from dominant champion to player who can't handle someone else stealing her thunder. That Heat game moment is now part of her permanent record. That awkward head turn, that obvious discomfort at seeing a Caitlin Clark jersey, that's woven into her narrative now. Every time she faces Indiana, every time she shares space with Caitlin Clark, people will be watching for signs of that same insecurity, that same bitterness, that same inability to move past the popularity contest and focus on what happens between the lines.